Welcome to episode 23 of Cynchranici. You are tapping in to the root of the symmetry and tuning in to the mind of Mercury for a very special podcast today. A very special podcast where I hope I can bring the same energy because I just recorded 1.5 hours of just straight gold, straight big fire bars for all of us to level up from. And because the technology that I am limited to using in this white supremacist timeline is primarily focused on projecting into my space so it can make money off of me, not actually functioning as advertised, my phone failed. My equipment failed. So I lost all of that. Now I'm angry. I'm very upset. If there's one thing that I hate to waste as Tahuti Trismegistus, as Symmetry, as Chase Clarence Calloway, as myself, as just who I am, it's not money, it's not energy, it is not material, it is truly time. I despise wasting time. If there's anything that I cannot stand wasting, it is time. That's why standing is healthier than sitting. Because once you're sitting, you're waiting. And waiting is wasting time. So, the first recording was really fun. Now you're getting like heated Tahuti. Heated Hermes. Hot Hermes, heated Tahuti. I'm just, my fire is blazing right now. As I simmer my trees, I suppose I'll cool down. But also, I'm just really angry because I shared a lot of very awesome information, a lot of very awesome wisdom that I will try to hit the points of again. I'm going to try to not miss any points because I organically did the first one really awesome. Like the intro for the first recording of this podcast was way better than the standard one. And now I forgot what that is. So you get the standard one. And actually you get a worse one. You get this one. You get an intro of me explaining how I'm upset that the first awesome recording of this podcast is gone. So, hey, I could be here putting on a show. If I viewed this more like a show, I would act like I did not lose the footage. And I would put on a smile and put on the vibration of, hey, this is our first time doing it. Every time is the first time. But because I'm actually in my water element with you, because I'm actually focused on being symmetry, and symmetry is about water, all right? Hermes is about fire. But when when Hermes is being his superhero self, he becomes symmetry. So my superhero self would like to ground and level with you and let you know where I'm coming from. And that involves me communicating Hermes through water. So I can only communicate my fire through water, which looks like air. And then that's the point of symmetry being water, Hermes being the fire. All of it is me as a spirit communicating my mind externally. Tahuti is my earth. So Tahuti, or as white people call him, Thoth, that's how I stabilize my mind and stabilize my ability to project fire into the reflective water. Man, it's whatever. So this podcast is already kind of off the rails. Like I had a way better flow. Oh my gosh, I had a way better flow the first podcast, and here we are. We'll start here. Flow. That is what this podcast is about. It wasn't even originally about flow, but now it is about flow because I am making it so. Originally, this podcast, being number 23, was going to primarily be about W. Now, in the first podcast, I organically, it was very fun, looked up how the letter W when we're thinking about the letter W, we think about water and wetness. And it's interesting then that wisdom starts with W. So, again, it was very fun in the first episode of me going through, like, okay, who, what, when, where, why. Who, what, when, where, and why. These are the 5 W's. And then I spent time. It's annoying because I'm not trying to fake it. Like, I could replicate it, but no. The thing is gone. Like, I lost the hour and a half of me organically flowing. So now I have to, like, refer to that and be way more not nearly as flowy. Like, you see this? This isn't whack. This is whack. Like, the first recording was so awesome and so good, and it's gone. Like, everything organically happened. I organically went through how I realized. Because I didn't realize this coming in, and I'm not trying to fake it for you. I don't want to fake things for you or anyone. So I'm not going to act like I'm realizing here and looking it up like it's fun. In the first podcast, the first recording of this episode, it was fun and organic of me realizing that W, when we think about W, we think about the questions of W. And that would be where, when, why, who, and what. So W, water, is all about literally the double you. There's you as an individual, and then there's the double you, which is the entire universe. And you as an individual are not alone in the universe, but you do feel alone inside of your own space. So this is proof enough that you are your own God. You are an individual God creating your circumstances, and the only way your circumstances can be relatable is if you connect them to the universe. And that is the cosmic W. So when we ask W, when we ask literally the W, where are we? Who are we? What are we? When are we? Why are we? There's 5 W's. And then I already looked it up in the first episode or first recording of this. I'm so angry right now. I looked it up in the first recording of this, and or like all over Google, there's 5 W's. So getting into it, it was really fun seeing like, oh, wow. See, like now I'm like, act like I'm happy. Like I would literally have to pretend. I'm not good at pretending. So I would literally have to pretend like I'm looking it up to like keep the same vibe. But no, the vibe is gone. It's washed away. Now it's a new vibe. You get angry Tahuti. And I'm just more passionate about how whack this technology is. Like it just gets to fail and get rid of everything that I built. So now you don't get all the natural organic wisdom that I put out for you because this technology consumed it. Because the people who created it are so consumptive that they want to consume my attention by making me forcibly put my mind into something that can't even hold it. It's insane. So, looking it up, like when I go onto Google right now, I had to make sure that there were just 5 W questions. Because if there are, then that's very synchronistic. The fact that we are in the 23rd episode, and in general, 23 is about W. That's what we're talking about. But then I just realized in this podcast, in the recording, in this waking hour, in the last recording, but in this waking hour, just realized today that the 5 W's are literally the spiritual no coincidence that's meant to reflect how we as spirits, we as individual yous coming together to create the W, create physical reality. We create physical reality. We create 5 cycle reality so that we can connect with one another. And thus the answer to who, what, when, where, and why is going to be phi. It's going to be 5. It's going to be physical reality. And in general, the energy of 5 is actually death. So this is the wisdom of 5, is knowing that we as spirits are creating physical reality so that we can find 5, our family, find family with the 5 in physical reality, in 5 cycle reality. Spirits find families in 5 cycle reality with the 5. So that's why your hand has 5 fingers, because we're literally manipulating light so that we can feel understood with other spirits. That's why we're all men. We're all humans. So you as a spirit, being a mind, communicating yourself into reality, you are a hue. That is the hue man. You are colorful, infinitely colorful. This is why there's no white or black in the universe. You can't look outside and see whiteness and blackness. You're not going to be able to look at a tree or look at a river or look at anything that exists within nature and find anything that's purely white or purely black. If you look close enough, you're going to find other colors, and you're going to see that actually everything is a modge podge of colors. Like, there's no such thing as white or black in nature. So then this is where we kind of have to wonder, what's up with race then? Like, why are we defining ourselves and talking about race and talking about each other in terms of white and black? And as Tahuti Trismegistus, I'll tell you right now, is because of this English language, and because the Freemasons who made this English language are obsessed with turning life black and white and turning life polarized, because the spirit itself is polarized before it communicates life. And this is the wisdom of 1 and 2. So in the last podcast, I messed up. We had to get this correction. 2 is life. In the last podcast, I said that 2 was death. And I was saying that in reference to 3 being life. But in reality, to actually get it completely properly correlated for us, 2 is life. Okay, so when Past Chase said 2 is death, that was because he was saying that death is what makes life matter. So really, when you know that life is dead without death, then that's the balance. Actually, death is life and life is death. But in reality, 1 is death, 2 is life, 3 is balance, 4 is death, 5 is life, 6 is balance, 7 is death, 8 is life, 9 is balance. And we experience life as 3. So that's the point. You as the mind experience life as balance. You're experiencing it as 2 plus 1. 2 is literal life. So you can see that everything in life is only possible because it's connected to what? The W. Okay, so the universe is what makes life possible. The universe is that 2 energy. That when you pay attention to the universe, you can build a simulation that you can then express yourself inside of. So all simulations, all situations exist inside the universe. Everything that we can experience is only possible because of our vibration, because of us being able to beat our heart first in a way that allows us to manipulate the physical reality that we're beating that heart in. And now we're able to create in greater ways. And this is the point of all of us being manipulative. Like, you literally cannot move if you don't manipulate yourself. If you don't coincide your own coincidence, if you don't create, if you don't combine your elements inside of your own space, if you don't coincide of your own coincidence, then you're not going to be able to manipulate yourself in a way that allows you to communicate yourself into any simulation. And now you won't be able to live any kind of life. You won't be able to connect with anyone. You won't be able to build a family. So the whole point of the W is to build your family. That is what 2 plus 3 is about. That's 5. So 5 is death. 6 is life. When you're looking at me talking about it in terms of like magic math or in terms of what the numbers mean, but in terms of being psychedelic, death is life. That's why psychedelics are actually life. That's why fasting is actually life. Fasting is psychedelic. Fasting taps you into being connected with yourself, which feels like death because you're separating from physical reality, but it's actually life because you realize that you're the one creating physical reality. You're the one who is creating the light that you are using to manipulate yourself into existence. Not the other way around. You were not created by light. Your mind was not created by your body. Or else it would make no sense at all that you can move your body and that you are in complete control of your body based on how you feel like sending electric nerve signals through your muscles. So your muscles are here to serve your mind. It's only that. The only reason that anyone thinks otherwise, the only reason that we're even confused on this is because white supremacy has forced us to learn that our minds are created by our muscles. And that's because they want to own our muscles. And by making us believe that our minds are created by our muscles, now once they own our muscles, they feel like they own our minds, which they functionally have for this amount of time until I, as Chase Clarence Calloway, am coming in here with my own mind. And then I agree to have my muscles colonized by the school system so that I can hyper communicate about how white supremacy has literally caused all these problems inside of my body. And I can solve them with my individual ideas because I came here purposefully. I was born purposefully. I am proof. Like, I'm just complete proof through everything that I've done in my life that the mind builds the body. The body does not build the mind. My ability to communicate is what all of my creations have come from. I haven't been making these costumes. I haven't been making art to build my mind. That doesn't make sense. Like, what? Like, which makes more sense? That the costumes, the Spider-Man costumes I've made, the Black Panther costumes I've made, all this art that I've made, all the pyramids that I've built, have they come out of my mind? Or has my mind come out of the pyramids? Has my mind been built by the Spider-Man costume? Has my mind been built by Dissect the Dialect? Like, which one is it? Did my mind build Dissect the Dialect? Or was my mind built by Dissect the Dialect? One makes sense and one doesn't. And the only reason you would be able to tell me that the Spider-Man costume, or that the Black Panther costume, or that Dissect the Dialect, or that me making this podcast is somehow building my mind and not the other way around, is because you're lost in that projection. Because to the universe, it's very clearly obvious that my mind is building this podcast. This podcast is not building my mind. Like, that's what's happening right now. My air is turning into earth so that I can make a structure that you can pay attention to. This is how I'm using my ability to communicate, which is only possible because I connected with myself to create a structure that you can pay attention to. This is how we as spirits literally create 5-cycle reality. This is how we create physical reality so that we can all have 6 together. Now we can all have sex. Now we can all do the number 6 because we did the number 5 after doing 4. So here I am. As an individual space, I become aware of my circumstances. So now I express my imagination. My imagination is only contained inside of my circumstances. So because my imagination is only contained inside of my circumstances, I can only see myself. And it takes me connecting with myself, realizing I'm alone in that, to then be able to use my mind to communicate in a way that allows me to get connected to spirits outside of myself. So that is what 23 is. That's the balance of air and water, and how the universe is a constant air and water cycle of connections and communications, because a spirit has to communicate that it feels like being connected, and then spirits have to be connected to even feel like communicating. So you can't communicate anything if you did not connect with yourself on it. This is the nature of knowing that you as God are always creating life. You had to create the circumstance where you could even be born into the situation that you're in, into the reality that you're in, to even be aware of things outside of yourself. Because that's what we're talking about here. Once you become aware that you're alone, now you use your ability to manipulate yourself to kill your own ego. That's why K is 11, because 11 is about creating one body of water from combining two ideas. So that's the double you, literally. Like one you is you as an individual. The other you is all of us. All of us as individuals outside of you. Because you are always going to be the constant of your experience. So all of us as spirits outside of you, we are all creating the universe. And if you want to connect with any spirit outside of yourself, you have to kill your own ego so you can get connected to the universe. And now, based on your soul, this is why the ego and the soul are different. You have to kill your ego so your soul can exist. So this is why you can't see my ego, but you can feel my soul through my words. You can feel my soul through my vibration. You can't see my ego. You'll never be able to see my ego, but you can see how my ego communicates through my soul. So that's the importance of knowing that your soul, your feeling, is what gives life meaning. And you're always communicating from your circumstance, from your individual perspective of what is meaningful to you. Because whatever is meaningful to you is going to be the meaning that you bring into the universe. And now you're being mean to people. Because you're always going to be mean to people about what means something to you. And then that's where I can appear mean, or I could like seem mean right now, even perhaps. The more I get into my fire based on how much this podcast means to me and how losing an hour and a half of all of that organic gold now makes me more mean. But that's the nature of the universe. So I've learned more of who I am, what matters to me, what life means to me. And then that fire, based on how I connect with myself, allows me to actually get out more ideas. This version of the podcast will very well have more ideas. Maybe not. I mean, that first one was very awesome, and I'm very angry about it. But if I get lost in that anger, then I'm not going to be actually able to create something new. I'm going to keep looking at the past and getting frustrated that I don't have the past. The past doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is me communicating with you right now about the wisdom of W, and why water and wisdom both start with W, and why is W literally double the U. We've already touched on these things, but we're going to get even deeper after this nice high vibrational carpet ride into the W, into the astral realm, into the World Wide Web that connects all simulations throughout the universe. We're going to marvel at how everything is connected as we simmer our trees, and then we will touch back down to dive deep into the wisdom of the double U. Crying, I simmer my trees, breathe in my leaves, balance my chi, triple my C. My mind's been flying wild, my soul's been crying. I simmer my trees, breathe in my leaves, balance my chi, triple my C. My soul's been crying wild, my mind's been flying so high. Through the astral plane, macabre brain, I built your game, we're not the same. My soul's been crying while my mind's been flying to relay a word. Those who listen heard, we make our vibe from deep inside. My soul's been crying while my mind's been flying back into my space, called away with haste, so I'll fall with grace to thrill my chase. My mind's been flying while my soul's been crying too. Water my earth, I know my worth. My soul gives birth to all my work. My mind's been flying while my soul's been crying, so I can't connect with those you neglect. Time to correct how we reflect. My mind's been flying while my soul's been crying too. Who flood the sea with energy from my energy? I'm free to be me. I vow to inspire you to say, now to fly higher script and break the facade. Take a trip and go abroad. When you're brave, they will apply. When you get touched with your true God. I've been fighting, I've been vibing. When I'm dancing with demons, reversing curses and scheming, they be fiending for reasons to change the sins like the seasons. So I've been falling, cause y'all been calling my mind out of my spirit. I feel it best when I'm near it, but y'all cry for help and I hear it. So Hermes flies out to stare it in a new healthy direction. Will grow through natural connection. So I simmer my trees, breathe in my leaves, balance my chi, triple my C to level up like it's nothing, to turn into something, to bust into function, bumping and pumping with all the wisdom I'm gushing. And when I simmer my trees, breathe in my leaves, balance my chi, triple my C, I fell to inspire you. Simmer higher, I simmer in the skies, I triple in my chi, then I open up my eyes. I balance in my seasons. I mother the cohesion that keeps us intertwined. Symmetry, balance in my seasons, and I don't need a reason to fulfill my desires. Symmetries. Welcome to our wonderful world wide web of wet water. All these W's, our wonderful world wide web of wet water. That's 6 W's to show us where we are. Literally, right now. That is Tahuti Trismegistus's, that is Trippy Trip C's, Symmetry's answer to where we are right now. And really, anytime you're able to experience yourself, the simple answer to where you are is the wonderful world wide web of wet water. Absolutely. This is why all life is water-based. And of course, water cannot exist without air. So this is the nature of 23. As the W. So where are you? You are underwater. This is the wisdom of Anubis and Atlantis, and why Atlantis reigns supreme forever. And societies all around simulations will always have their own ideas about Atlantis. The point of Atlantis is that it is a mystery until I, as a representative of Atlantis, bring the wisdom, the darkness, to light, to knowledge. Now we can build knowledge upon the wisdom of me telling you, you hear it here first, Anubis himself is the creator of Atlantis. Like there's no one else. Like he does that himself. He is truly alone in that. All because he cares so much about facilitating connections throughout the universe. Because he wants everyone to be connected to themselves. The universe is not worth being connected to if it's not being created by spirits who aren't connecting with themselves. So then that's where he loves me, and we're twin flames, and we have our our super gushy bromance. Best bromance in the universe. Because he believes in me as Mercury. My whole thing is Mercury is staying separate from the universe so that I can observe how spirits are creating life and document and record things that allow us to do it more consciously. So boom, he and I, like, we're just destined. We've been at this, it's lit. We build simulations. I as Symmetry am the 4. I'm here building the structure, and then Anubis is the 2. He connects to the structure. He gets spirits connected to my structure. So you would not know about me if it weren't for Anubis. I'll tell you that right now. I would be too separate from the universe if it was not for water. Literally. So Anubis is my water. That's why he's my twin flame, because our imaginations line up perfectly with our intentions for life. So then the way that our vibrations mesh, me being the boy, him being the dog, just a boy and his dog building worlds forever and ever. Pretty lit. I can't imagine anything better, personally. So, if that's my limit as a spirit, so be it. The whole point is we're bringing our unlimited natures into something limited because that's the only way we could ever make sense of each other, ever. Like, you wouldn't be able to make sense of this if you couldn't Google Anubis, Google Hermes, see all the stories about us, and then listen to me and understand how simple it is, yet how complex it is based on how long we've been doing it. But I'm just putting it in English right now. And then really it's simple based on what I just said, because no one has this perspective but me, and no one can break down all this stuff like this but me. And now that I've introduced it into the internet, we can build knowledge off of my wisdom. So true wisdom is knowing that you are alone, and knowledge is knowing that we make up life. We literally, everything is made up. That's why I really hate that phrase. I really don't like that phrase. I might have to start a series just about the phrases that Chase hates. Because I really do hate that phrase, you can't make this up. You can't make this ish up. Like, what? What do you mean you... Bro, everything's made up. What are you talking about? You can't... Like, I don't like that witchcraft, actually. Like, if I'm going to get really negative real quick, for you to tell me that you can't make this ish up is a limitation. Because I can definitely make that up. And I can make up way better things than that. And then really it makes me look at that in a more negative light. Because now I have to wonder, like, is it made up? Because I know everything is made up. But it's about, like, the truthful matter of it versus the lie matter. Like, are you making this up to manipulate me? Or are you making this up to express your authentic self? Like, because then, like, that's the point. Like, all of life is made up. Your body's made up. When people are, you can't make this up. Like, what do you mean you can't? Like, I made my body up. Why wouldn't I be able to make up this scenario that you're sharing with me? I write stories all the time. Like, what? We live life, like, all the time. We can make up stories in our head all the time. What? What do you mean you can't make this up? Chances are, whatever you're telling me that I can't make up, that thing is made up. And not chances are, that's my point. That's why I'm upset. That's why I hate the phrase. Because everything is made up. So when people are saying, like, you can't make this up, it always makes me wonder if they're trying to manipulate me to really believe in it. And then I'm like, if you really want me to believe in it, then is it a lie? And it just makes me question it more. And that's all of us as spirits. Like, this is naturally what happens. The more someone pushes you to believe something, the more you have to pull away. And that's just the nature of polarity. And then, I mean, whatever. Like, we could get into, like, game. Or just, like, the idea of attraction. Literally, attraction and polarity. And when you want to attract people or you want to connect with people, the more you push into their space, the more they're going to pull away. Versus if you pull away, they'll push into your space if you're supposed to connect. If you pull away and the other person doesn't push into your space, then that's a sign that you're supposed to be happy being alone. That's a cue for all my white men who have issues with women. And just men in general. White is a mentality. We're all humans in reality. But when you're a white man, mentally, despite whatever color you look like to us, when you're a white man, mentally, that means you do not want to be alone. And the only way that looks of not wanting to be alone is constantly needing to project into other people's spaces, other female spaces, other women's spaces. And then you're projecting into these women's spaces with the hopes of making them make you feel something that you feel like you can't feel alone. And all these women are going to have to do is absorb the negative traumatized vibrations that you're running from. So this is why women resonate with me way more than men, kinda forever. Because women are water. So this is why I really had to make this message very point blank, very clear every time. Because a lot of my trauma has come out of dealing with this water. Dealing with the universe. Dealing with the chaos that I can't control outside of myself based on how I am in control of how I communicate. So now I have to be more hyper conscious of how I communicate based on how it affects things that I can't control. So this is where my wisdom comes from. Here's the wisdom episode. Wisdom is knowing that you're only in control of how you communicate and how you connect, but you're not in control of how others connect with you and how others connect with your communications and how others communicate into your space. So that's the balance. Like, this is the spidey sense. That's why it's important to be in your serpent spider energy when you're riding the S, when you're riding a sine wave as a body. It's important to be able to know when to speak and when to be silent. It's all about synchronicities like that, because you're creating reality, but reality, life, literally the three is balance. So it's not about always speaking into existence. That's again the white man, where, you know, think about catcalling, literally. Like spiritually, that's what looks like a man catcalling a woman. He wants to speak his desires into existence, and his literal idea of speaking them is not connecting with himself and creating art that allows him to be in resonance with women who he can actually build something with. No, his idea of speaking his desires into existence looks like shouting at a woman she has a fat ass. See the difference? Right? We know, like, it's all about the caduceus, literally. It's all about using your serpents, using your ability to create, to wrap around your own soul, to wrap around your own tea repeatedly, so that you can grow your own garden. You can cultivate your own fruits, and those fruits, that air is what you share through your bird as you fly into simulations. And now you look like a snake, because we look like snakes when we enter water, but the fact is, when we're consciously entering water, we can be a bird because we know that we're communicating our desire to connect into existence. And that's what Mercury is here to teach you. That's what Mercury is here to show you, that we are communicating our souls into existence. That's what 23 is. Where are you? The universe. You are able to experience and manipulate five cycle reality, because you are communicating your feeling of being connected into existence. That looks like using these lights, using all these forms, and definitely not being alone, because nothing is possible alone, aka you are possible alone. You can do anything alone as nothingness in your own imagination. But once you step out into life, it's all contracts and agreements, all based on feelings, all based on water, all based on connections. Your body can only communicate as far as it connects. That's why you can only move the cells that are nourished by your blood. Your blood is the physical manifestation of your fluid, your ability to connect. This is why it's important to make sure that your blood is as clean as possible, so your body can connect as clearly as possible, and why you wouldn't want to get injections, or especially not mandatory jabs into your bloodstream that are full of heavy metals, because those are completely doing the opposite. I have a friend, and she has friends, so multiple friends through her. But this is one friend that I have who told me about all of her friends and her. She sent me photos of how they didn't even get the injection. They just got the test. And just getting the test, the swab up the nose, she could put a magnet on her nose. Like, the people in her life can put magnets on their nose and the places where they got tested and shot. She didn't get shot, but just from getting the test, they put heavy metals in her body. They put magnetized heavy metals up into her nose, and she was able to literally put a magnet on her face after her test, because her test was mandatory for her to keep working, of course. Luckily, she's a quite healthy girl, so she's detoxing, and she said that she feels like she's detoxed a lot of the heavy metals out. because she can't put the magnet up there as much anymore. But that took detoxing, like intentional detoxing. So all the people who've gotten that test and aren't detoxing, and they're just living in cities and like continuously ingesting and getting more metals inside of them, their bodies are getting destroyed. Like the more metal that you get pumped into your bloodstream, the less your cells are able to communicate. And especially when that metal is reacting to all the technology around you, like you're having heavy metals inside of you that are reacting to all the high frequencies of the technology that is also metal, because that's how the metal got here. It's from the technology around you. That's creating disease. That creates disharmony in the cells of the body and discord. So everything being underwater is transforming. This is where we get to have the wisdom of knowing that spirits are creating physical reality underwater, under a double U. All because you, as an individual spirit, feel like getting connected with a spirit, with a space outside of yourself, because you don't want to be in control of everything. Being in control of everything is a very lonely existence. Like literally, when you're in control of everything, that means that you are alone. So the whole point of us as spirits, all of us, creating the universe, is that we are choosing to not be in control of everything. And that is what physical reality is. Us not being in control of everything. So you can manipulate physical reality, you can exert your control over it, but you can't be in control of everything, because physical reality is being created by all of us. Okay, so this is for everyone who literally believes that we are all extensions of one God. Like, you literally can't believe that when you're tapping into the root of the symmetry and you actually see the subconscious natures behind the English alphabet. W is literally showing us that all of us as individual yous are connecting to a collective you that we are not in control of. All of life, every single thing in any realm of reality, in any life, anywhere, shape, or form, is about you getting in control of yourself. And that's what tripling your C is all about. Communicating with yourself in a way that is 3 times 3. It's not just air, but it's air times air, which is now you realize with your realize. realize with your realize. Becoming a 9-dimensional being. Because then what's after 9? Boom. Hermetic heaven. Really easy. Now you can create heaven because you realize that you are creating your vibration. You're creating 8, which is the universe. But in terms of 5 is physical reality. So that's where the universe is the number 8 and 5 is physical reality. And physical reality is always dying. So that's what death is. Physical reality is always transforming. That's why your body is moving. Imagine if your body wasn't transforming. Imagine if you didn't grow up, right? Like, imagine if your body didn't grow in general. Like, it doesn't make sense. It does not. There'd be no sense there. we can point towards sense and see that none of it is found, actually. So no matter how much we point towards sense in this context, it won't be found. If you're trying to think about a physical reality where nothing changes, the point is nothing changes. So even like that phrase where nothing changes is a paradox inside of itself, because spirits change. Like there's no way that you're about to create a physical reality and then be there forever. That's actually truly impossible, because the fact is that physical reality was not there forever. So you see why all light must exit, like everything must die. It's not about ending, it's about the fact that you're transforming, and you transform from one state and you're going to transform into another state. And that's what it's all about, transforming from state to state, and you're using light to do that. So before this body, you were a lighter body, and now you're using this body to transform heavier, and then that's what it looks like to grow up and become a bigger human. You get bigger muscles, bigger bones, bigger organs, bigger everything, and then over the time you get older. Perhaps when you get older, you get smaller, and that's, you know, you on the process of becoming lighter again, even as you get older. And then as you get lighter, you die, and that's you taking all of your water from your body back to your spirit, back to your water, and really just taking all the light from your body that really matters, because that's what it means. Like when monks and people in general die by transforming their body into a light body and dematerializing, and then that's where the Bible talks about Jesus doing that. Like this is what we're talking about here. You more consciously transforming your body back into your circumstances so that you can take more of yourself with you based on how light you become. So this is the highest wisdom. Welcome to the symmetry. Welcome to Mercury. Honestly, this podcast has quickly just become, this recording has quickly become better than the last one. I actually just packed in everything in a less flowery way, and now we have more time for me to chill out some of my trees and build upon what I've just more concisely laid out in this short time than the last recording. Because truly, when I'm doing these podcasts, like this is my opportunity to let my mind fly and like a bird talk about what I'm seeing. So this is literally like the STU. So my S is my body, my T is my soul, and my U is my mind. So this is where then it's about the circle, because my mind is creating my body, yet my mind is also flying and not my body. But it is creating my body based on how it feels like connecting with this simulation. So then that's where I'm using my soul to pay attention to this world, and now my mind can communicate through my soul into this world to build a body and transform that body. And this is how we build physical reality with that 23, that water, that wisdom of the universe, that feeling like connecting and communicating that feeling like connecting in a way that creates an air-water cycle. And all of us doing that together as spirits creates the universe. So all of our fires are completely separate, but we're creating water from our fire, and then we're communicating that water. So that 23 is the universe. All simulations are the 4. That's what we know from the vibration, 22 being 4. 23 is about physical reality, and how all of physical reality, all of physical reality is under water. It is underneath the double U. You as a spirit must create physical reality. You must transform inside of physical reality if you want to connect with other spirits. Otherwise, you're all in your own spaces. So this is like the essence of you being God. Again, like you are completely in control of your own circumstances. You're in control of your own imagination and your own soul. It's just then when you want to connect with other gods, you have to create a circumstance where you're not in control of everything. And that's what we've learned with the vibration in the 22nd episode, where now we can relate all on being victims. Like Black people, indigenous people, we can relate on being victims of global genocide and global slavery and the global brutal sex trafficking of our children, our women, and our men, just all of us, and how that has done nothing but profit everyone who worships money. Like, we can relate on that. The sexual, violent, dehumanizing abuse of indigenous people has made capitalism thrive. And that's something that we can all learn from now in this timeline. And because we can communicate about it, that allows us to connect in a way that we otherwise would not be able to if we were not in this situation. So it's not about us creating this situation. We're creating the circumstance to be connected to this situation. But we're all creating this situation. That's why it's all of us together. That's why you can't actually really say what happened in history unless you saw it yourself. If you weren't there yourself, if you weren't observing it yourself, you can't actually know. Like, you're now just repeating someone else's account. And then if someone else's account is a repeat of someone else's account, and then that person's account is a repeat of someone else's account, then now we have a pyramid scheme of lies and history, literally. And that's the point of Hermetic history. Because this is why I built Mercury. I'm chilling on Mercury, and I see a lot. I see simulations rise and fall, on and on and on, just day in and day out, eon after eon. Simulations rise and fall. It's nature. That's the whole point. The simulation wasn't there before, so why would it always be there? The only way that you could have a simulation always there is if you're in complete control of it. So that's what Hermeticism is about. If you want to live in a true heaven, then you have to be the one who's creating that world. Because you are the spirit, like you as a spirit are in heaven when you're alone in your imagination. This is everything that we've learned here. You as a spirit are in heaven when you're alone in your imagination. That's the 10. When your space is connecting with your ego in a way that your ego feels like it's supported by God, by the spirit, you're in heaven. And that's the feeling that you have to carry into hell. So you see how we create hell so that we can create heaven with others. So now you have to show others how you're connected to God, because really you're connected to yourself. And if spirits are lost in hell because they don't want to be connected to themselves and they're just messed up getting lost underwater, then they're drowning in the W. They don't have wisdom, so they're just underwater, not knowing where they are. They're asking these questions. Where am I? What am I? Why am I? When am I? Who am I? And they're just lost, like just very confused. All because they're not connected to themselves to know that they created a body inside of a simulation inside of the universe. And that means that they are space. So this is the point of everything in life being 3. Like we can think of unconsciousness, subconsciousness, consciousness, that space, soul, body. That would be nothingness, darkness, light. And light comes before darkness, but for light to actually be seen and stabilized, it has to come out of your darkness, which is your internal light. And that's what we're talking about with your simulation. Your situation is forever. Your ability to connect with yourself and your feelings of connecting with yourself are forever. Anything outside of that is not forever. So that's why anything you pay attention to, like you pay attention to this body, you pay attention to the body that you're in so that you can grow and do what you want to in said body. But you know that that body's not forever because, I mean, you were not alive in that body before. Like there was a time where you were not in that body. So you could not be in that body forever. The whole point is that you've specifically created this body at a specific point in time so you can communicate in a specific way. And that's the whole essence of me as symmetry, just teaching how gods play. Like, this is the most divine way. Like, this is the most divine truth. Like, truly, on how we create simulations. How do we as individual spirits that are all infinitely powerful create this situation where we can connect with each other? This is how we make it relatable. Creating physical reality inside the universe where we can all feel like victims because we're all inside of bodies that are at the whim of circumstances outside of ourselves. And now we all have to play by the same rules. And because we have to play by the same rules, now we all feel like we are the same. Now we all feel similar. Now we feel like we can relate because we have to do the same things. And now our ability to communicate is limited to the rules. And then that allows us to relate even more. Because when people are talking about the rules, now you can learn about who wants to follow the rules versus who wants to break the rules. How do you want to follow the rules? What kind of rules are these? Or do you even want to play the game in the first place? This is the whole point. Like, in any simulation, any situation, we build a game so that we can now figure out more about ourselves inside the game. So life is a video game. That's just where, I mean, people love video games because it's simulated life. Like, you're manipulating a character based on your thoughts and feelings. Sounds like what you're doing with this body so that you can even believe that this video game matters. Like, this video game is just pixels of light on a screen. So you literally had to get lost in some kind of education system and indoctrination to even know how to categorize all the things that you're seeing on screen so that they do matter in a way that you feel like engaging with them enough to get whatever dopamine burst that you're getting from accomplishing what you should be accomplishing in your actual real life body. So that's how, I mean, perfect example of video games being how spirits weaponize the basic fact of how we create life to make us create life for them. And then, of course, all these video games, they only get better how? The more they can replicate the video game we're already in. Like, we're already in a video game right now. We're already in virtual reality. But video games are better and better the more realistic they look, the more relatable they look, the more they look like what we're creating right now. So it's just mimicking. It's literally all macro, micro technology, spirits using technology to do what they're already doing right now. And then we're just constantly manipulating physical reality so that we can do what we already created physical reality to do, which is to connect. And then you get Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook Meta up here like, we know people love to connect. As Facebook Meta, we're getting put on blast for all these allegations of how we sell your data and completely disrespect your privacy. But we know that your desire to connect is greater than your desire to actually hold us accountable for disrespecting you. So come join us in our virtual reality where we're just going to Black Mirror life you. Man. So when you know that you're already creating life, all you can do is create it more consciously and not get lost in how other people are trying to tell you that you're not creating life. Because when you get this deep into all the wisdom that I'm sharing you, no one will get you lost. No one can convince you that you are not an artist. No one. Because to bring it to a super grounded level, when we're talking about like this one God and like white supremacy and decolonizing your space, it's about knowing that you are an individual. You are not an extension of some other individual. Because that would mean that you're permanently connected to something else. And that means that you're permanently serving something outside of yourself. You'll never be in heaven when you're connected to something else. You will only ever be in heaven when you know that you're already connected to yourself. That's the wisdom. We know that K is actually in hell. You're killed. You're constantly in hell when you feel like you're connected to something else. When you feel like you need to pray to something outside of yourself, you're in hell. because now you're just constantly reacting to whatever that thing taught you. And that thing is now just making money while doing what it really wants. So that's like all these people who worship the Catholic Church and believe in everything that the Catholic Church has said about God, when they're just, I mean, they've just straight up whitewashed Hermeticism and turned it into garbage, turned it into follow our rules. Everything that we're talking about here, they've taken it and demonized it so that you feel like the right thing to do is to permanently connect to something outside of yourself because you are unworthy of being alone with your own feelings. That's why European American governments don't teach meditation in schools. They don't teach anything about connecting with yourself. They actively work to make sure that they can project technology into your space that doesn't even work for you. Like this technology that I'm using to communicate myself onto the internet is barely functional by my standards. Like people here try to act like it's good, but that's just because their standards are so garbage because they're not a real creator. This is how I know that I'm an individual. All right, this technology is like literally alchemized from indigenous resources, and it's just built to break so that the people can steal more of your time and attention and make you support more of their structure by buying more of their thing, because now you're forced to only use their thing. And that's the whole essence of monopolies. And yeah, man, the tech corporations are truly destroying the planet. And they truly sell destroying the planet as getting people connected, when literally all they're doing is disconnecting you from the planet and from everyone that you naturally wanted to be connected with in life. And now everyone is forced to connect through technology. So what? Now technology just makes endless money, capitalizing and controlling how you connect and communicate with people outside of yourself. And thus the people who made that technology get to build a whole world off of it and do whatever they want to with your energy. What? So this is where you are. All right, you should feel awesome about being in the universe once you have all of this knowledge and this wisdom that I'm sharing with you, all this awareness, knowledge, wisdom, and awareness. Because now it's about knowing that you are inside a physical reality, and the physical reality that you're creating here with hermetic health and everything is your body. Your body is the physical reality that you are creating so that you can transform through a bigger physical reality. Does it make sense for you to control the physical reality outside of yourself? Not really. No. Why? Because that is physical reality being made by spirits outside of you. So this is just natural indigenous wisdom. Like when I'm walking around in a forest, it's like, wow, look at all these spirits creating bodies so that they can communicate themselves into existence. They're so beautiful. They're connecting to the universe and it looks so pleasing to my eyes. They're so beautiful. Nature's beautiful. Like that's what it is. That's psychedelic symmetry's perspective on life. Nature is beautiful. Nature is psychedelic because it's individual spaces feeling like getting connected to each other. And then they build really pleasing structures. That's what Lucifer is. That's why Lucifer is beautiful. Light is beautiful. Lucifer is the light bearer. And we use air to bear our light. Your light is your feelings. And then your feelings become matter once you use your mind to put them in a body. And now everything that you use your body to pay attention to matters more and more in your life. And now you're using your matter to make things matter. And now we're building physical reality. Here we are. This is the highest wisdom, my guy, my girl, my fam, my man, my woman, my God, my dog, my spirit, my space. Everyone and no one. This is it. Like everything from here is details on like magic and infinite ways that you can create. But the whole point of us laying out these first episodes, and really is about to be us going through Dissect the Dialect for this podcast. So these first 26 episodes are all about laying out the consciousness of where you are, why you're alive, how you can connect with yourself, how you can figure out who you are, what you want to bring to the universe, and all the details of you just actually creating your space in the universe. Because that's what it's about. Like, you as a spirit are alone inside of your own space, but if you don't want to be alone, then you have to be the one to create your home that others can connect to. That's what nature is. Like, when I look at nature, all the spirits, infinitely creative. Everyone's an artist. Everyone's making music. That's, again, Lucifer, the water. Life is beautiful. Life is musical. Life is psychedelic. That's why acid is called Lucy, Lucy, literally. Because when you're tripping on acid, when you're on LSD, when you're on Lucy, you can see Lucy. You can see lights. You are now way more receptive to the lights that spirits will use to communicate with your mind versus what you consider physical reality. So on your normal day-to-day basis, that's normal, right? And then that's where we have the term hallucinations. Life is one long hallucination. Everything is a hallucination when you're aware like this. When you know that spirits communicate themselves into existence, yeah, everything's a hallucination. It is just a matter of what you can touch. Clearly, that's what we consider Earth. Not just what we can touch, but what's actually relatable. As in, can we all go to this thing day after day? You're saying this thing happened, but can you replicate it? If you cannot replicate it, then it's not relatable because it's not real. It's not actual R energy. There's no 18 there. We can't realize who we truly are as you put an idea repeatedly into a vibration. Like it was a one-off shot. So if something's real, it's replicable. Right? If you're really a good athlete, then you can show up day after day to do that. If you're really a good artist, you can show up day after day to do that. Like, if I'm actually as passionate about this as I seem to be, then I'm not going to let losing an hour and a half of gold truly bother me. I can't. Like, what did I really lose? You know, like, I don't identify with my external creation. I identify with really the journey and everything that I'm internally building. Because what I'm internally building is unique to me. What I'm internally building is everything that I can be actually grounded upon. And what I'm internally building is everything that allows me to consistently make sense no matter where I am. And that thing is my soul. That thing is my own vibration. That's what we're all internally building with these external buildings that we call bodies, that we call thoughts. All these bodies expire, but all of our bodies are connected by our vibration. All of our bodies are connected by our soul, by our feeling. You can never be disconnected from yourself when you're creating a body to express yourself. That is impossible. The fact that your mind is animating itself through a body means that your soul is literally mattering. Your feelings literally matter. If your feelings didn't matter, you would not have a blood flow, you would not have a heartbeat, and you would not have muscles that can contract and expand based on how you want to communicate and connect. And this is all only possible in physical reality. This is all only possible underwater, underneath the double U. So from here, everything's details, guys. Everything. And it's funny. I don't even like using the word guys. It's kind of default just based on me being raised in America for 24 years. I do prefer family. I'll just come up with different terms. I might create different words. I do like fam. Because the whole point, actually, I love fam. The whole point of 23 being the number 5 is showing us that as spirits, we are all one big family. That's what it means to truly be indigenous. And that's why the indigenous peoples welcomed the carnivorous and cannibalistically violent Judeo-Christian peoples in with open arms. Because they view them as indigenous. And thus, they view them as family. Whereas Europeans, the Judeo-Christian colonizers, the Crusaders, they don't view the indigenous peoples as family. They view them as demons. They view them as demons because they're not accepting the sacrifice of their God. So they're like, these indigenous peoples aren't letting us erase their individuality. What? They're demons. Let's build a system on raping them so that we can worship something that tells us not to rape people and not to kill. So this is why water fasting is essential. Because you're underwater. So if you want to connect with the truest essence of you, then water fasting is about to be the way to go. Because water fasting is about to get you deep into your soul. Water fasting allows you to dive so deep that you didn't even think it was possible to learn so much about yourself. Like, you didn't even know that you had this much depth. I as Chase did not imagine any of this. Like, I was not thinking like this 3 years ago. Like, even, oh my gosh, going into college, like, I can think of my whole life of like being through grade school, going through high school, getting out of high school, going into college, getting out of college. I wasn't thinking like this. I wasn't anywhere close to here. Like, I wasn't so deep in my subconscious that I was able to learn about life and bring way more of my gifts to the world, because I went deeper into my garden. I went deeper into my soul. Because that's what I love. I love making gifts. I love making art. I love bearing fruit from my garden. That's literally what we're talking about here with Hermeticism and Simicism. Everything with the snakes and the trees and the birds and the bees. So we're all family as spirits because we're all indigenous. We're all going in. We're all transforming inwards. We're all going to be forced to connect with ourselves once we're done connecting with others. And the ultimate form of connecting with others is being in a body. So when you're constantly just in a body, connecting with others instead of connecting with yourself, you are the furthest away from your space as possible. And that's truly what it looks like to just be paying attention to being a body and like being aware of everything in this reality and just everything in a simulation in general. So that's why meditation is basically closing your eyes and disconnecting from, separating from everything that you can, and then going pure observer mode. And then the more you go observer mode, the more you start to match the frequency of your spirit. And then that's where life becomes infinitely spiritual, of course, when you realize that it's all one long meditation and you're always nothingness, and it's just a matter of how deeply are you connected to your own center, to your own, literally like being in your space before you start to get into your elements. and get into your feelings and get into your thoughts and ideas, and then get into how you want to communicate those, and then get into whatever language you're limited to using based on the body that you're aware of and how you're able to communicate those. You got to peel all that away. So water fasting is the absolute best way to peel away all the garbage in your body that is not working for you. Not just peel away the metaphysical, emotional traumas and boundaries that stop you from being the best you, because fasting does that, absolutely. But literally that manifests on a physical level of you cleaning your body in a way that is never, ever, ever going to be possible with anything that the pharmaceutical industry is using Callaway's Caduceus to sell to you. So before we wrap up, before I ski-daddle on out of here, zip on by, fly away, I'm going to leave you with a tip, a little tip on how you can communicate your desire to connect, and communicate your desire to connect in a way that creates physical reality. So we're about to get into some symmetry magic here. Some Trip C communication tactics. Because manifestation is very awesome. Manifestation is how you made this body. Everything is manifested. That's everything that we've talked about here. So now that we have this whole grounded basis, everything else in life is about details, and us literally using our ability to communicate to become more and more intricate and become more and more just like awesome, basically. But it's always going to be built on the basics. You can't build anything complex off of not basics. Like, there has to be basics that everything works off of. So that's why all these religions and stuff, they come to Hermeticism before they start teaching other people to build their own heaven. They're like, how do I build my own heaven, Hermes? And then they get my shit and they're like, cool, I'm gonna make people build my heaven and I'm gonna teach them to hate themselves. And then I have to be like, hey, don't do that. But at the same time, if spirits want to uphold that and everyone's creating that reality for themselves, again, I'm a hero, not a hero. I'm not about to project in there. I'm here to show them who they are. And if that's who they are, then I'm not getting involved. And they can ring my line once they're ready, which is what we're doing right now. Chase Calloway has been called away because Mercury has been rung and he has been born in a synchronistic time to communicate in a synchronistic way. So when you know that you're creating death, you're creating physical reality by combining your 2 and 3, then that means that anything that you want to feel, because that's what physical is. Physical is about feeling. Your desire to feel something in physical reality is in and of itself a vibration that you can cultivate and carry internally. So this is the wisdom of 23 in this case, and water being an internal element, and you as God creating your mind by connecting with your own you, which is your own universe. So when you as a God create your own universe that allows you to not feel alone, then you can connect with yourself in a way that now you have your own W, your own water. So now it doesn't matter where you are, you're constantly cultivating your own universe inside of you. So now you're naturally like riding your like own, not just your own vibration, but yeah, I mean your own universe, if lack of better words, vibration. But as far as alchemizing these numbers in a way that actually creates the physical reality that you want, the wisdom here is knowing that you have to feel how you want before you can actually see it. And that's the whole purpose of feeling fulfilled or feeling whole. You have to feel like you already have everything you want before you're actually going to see it. And that's like the secret stuff, right? I'm just making it make more sense here with numbers. It's about you using your 2, your ability to feel connected, to add on and connect with your 3, which is your mind, your ability to communicate. So whatever you want as a spirit, whatever you want to create in reality, whatever you want to manifest in physical reality, that is purely a representation of you communicating, is it not? That's purely a representation of your mind, is it not? Your chi, is it not? So when we think about chi, we all have chi, but our chi is our ability to communicate. And our ability to communicate is simultaneously individual, yet not. Because if it was too individual, you would not be able to see me. But if it was not individual enough, we would not be able to communicate, and you would not be able to learn anything from me, because I'm not an individual with my own space, literally. And I can't project out ideas as an individual. So that's where we see that air, communication, the mind, is the combination of fire and water. It's the combination of projection and connection. You have to connect with an idea that you projected out of your space before you can communicate it into external reality for all of us to see. So this is the wisdom of creating physical reality with your word. Another W. Word. Words build worlds. Watery words build worlds. That's what this podcast is, after all. I'm using my words to build a world, and by extension, I'm then building the world for the internet. So now the internet is a bigger world because I'm using words to build a world that represents me as an individual. So now you can see my mind, basically. You can see how my thoughts and feelings come together consistently over and over to build a structure. And then this is the natural representation of who I am at this current point in time. And then of course time is us gauging how water moves, and water is chaotic, constantly moving, but it does move in a cycle because water is psychedelic, water is musical, water is Lucifer, water can only be communicated through air, feelings can only be seen through air. Your feelings are completely unique to you. So this is why, again, fire and water being internal elements, only you can see your thoughts and only you can see your feelings. So if you want other people to see your feelings, you have to actually use your thoughts to carry them. And that looks like you using your awareness to be Mercury and communicate yourself into existence. And then that's where we get Earth, because what do you use to communicate yourself into existence? Earth, the body. That's where air is full of earth particles. So now all these particles are the things that are animated by the atmosphere, which is constantly being created, energetically vibrated by the combination of frequency and vibration. Because it does take space vibrating at a certain frequency to create energy. For these white supremacists to teach us that energy cannot be created or destroyed is just an absolute blasphemic lie. It's horrible, from the pits of hell, truly. Not a fan. And we're forced to regurgitate that to be considered smart slaves, sitting in school to develop scoliosis. So when you want to create physical reality, that means connecting with your own communication. And that looks like cultivating a feeling and dying inside of yourself. So literally, when you know what you want and you know who you are and you know how you want to feel, it is truly the constant exercise and practice. This is what fasting is about. This is why it's water fasting. It's water. It's just about you putting in that constant practice of connecting with your communication. So when your mind is communicating what you want, but you're not seeing it, you as a spirit have to connect with that. Because just because you're communicating what you want does not mean that you're actually connecting with it. Literally. Like, just because you're pushing out this air doesn't mean that you're making sure that there's enough water in the air for it to actually water Earth. Because that's what it's really about. Like, we have to use air to communicate our water. But the wisdom of 23, the wisdom of the W here, is knowing that you have to make sure your air actually has enough water in it to bring life to wherever you're going, wherever you're traveling. So you can't be too dry of air. Like, you can't be just 3. Like, only communicating is straight dry air. And Earth is dry, so cold. The point is, the wisdom of W is that you want to bring the wetness, baby. You want to bring that wetness, baby. You want to make sure that you are bringing your feelings and really expressing your feelings in a way that is actually wet, is actually emotional. Not in a chaotic way, but certainly not in a dry way. Like, if you won't actually bring life to any earth, any realm. So when you want to create physical reality, that's you paying attention to earth outside of you, and you want to create something. That's literally, you look at this 4, right? So everything outside of you, all these 4 boxes, you're like, wow, I really want to create something new here. That's literally you being in your 2 energy, paying attention to the 4. You want to create a new balanced creation, that's 6. So your desire to have 6 looks like whatever your mind is communicating. So if you're too dry or cold in that communication, that's going to result in you not actually bringing anything to the physical reality. You're not going to bring water to the earth that you're paying attention to. If anything, depending on how cold your communication is as a mind, you could very well cut up what was already set up for you. This is where you get windstorms. And just in general, like thinking about like dry wind versus rain. Because it's all water, but it's different levels of water. Rain brings life. Fast, dry winds don't bring life. If anything, they level forests. They like cut down plants. So just communicating like quickly, dryly does not bring it. Does not bring the life. Does not bring the creation that you want to build. The only way that you can actually manipulate physical reality in the way that you want to manifest the life of your dreams is to, as a spirit, connect. Use your 2 to connect with your own mind's idea, for lack of better word, but really your mind's communication. There we go. That's the word. Your mind's communication of what you want to see. So whatever you're trying to make happen, that's your mind communicating. Like right now, just having a beating heart and being aware of anything and living, there are things that you're trying to make happen in life. So that's already a result of your thoughts and feelings coming together to make your mind, literally. So you have all these different feelings throughout the day, but they are anchored by your thought. So for example, your job, you may feel a lot of different things about your job, but you are anchored to your job. The cycle of how you wake up every day is anchored to the thought that you're holding up, the idea that you are nourishing and connecting to. So there's a big difference between 3 and 23 and creating 5, because 3 as air will cut through 5. If you're just communicating with your air, you will cut through physical reality, and that's what family is. So this is where you don't want to use your ability to communicate to cut through families, to cut through other spirits that have chosen to group up because you desire to see something else. That's basically what it looks like whenever you're just straight up, as a mind, communicating what you want, basically. Like just communicating out. Because that's the air. That's a... Versus if you connect with your own air before you communicate. So before communicating your air outwards, because air is balanced. All right, that's where air doesn't have to go outward at all in any way, shape, or form. Air can like be all about going inward, and that's some wild air, because space is wild. I mean, at some point you're going to want to go outward. But air is just about travel in general. Air is about the mind communicating. So instead of just communicating outward, you connecting with that communication, that 23 is what literally creates 5. So now you have your internal world. That's your internal physical reality, your internal phi. So because your internal physical reality is now being cultivated by your ability to connect with your communication, now the universe is going to start reflecting that, because you're literally building it in your universe. So this is Hermeticism right here, practical manifestation in terms of figuring out, where are you? The universe. You are building a simulation in the universe, and this is how, with the number 23. You as a spirit are the one building the simulation. You are the one building the body inside of a bigger body so that you can build a different kind of body that we call a business, a corporation, or a home, or a family, whatever. But either way, it's all only going to be possible because of communication and connections, which is the wisdom of 23. So when you connect with your own communication, you create your own physical reality. You create your own family. You now have your own internal family. That's my Mercury family. Like I literally have built that family with my bare hands. All based on how I connected with myself. And then all these spirits who did not do that on their own connect with me, and then they learn how to do it, and then we all do it together, and then everything's lit. And now we're all leveling up. So it takes one. It does take one individual spirit to connect on it with itself, to then be able to create the idea that is able to be seen by other spirits. And then this is where, if other spirits don't connect with that idea, it's not going to get brought to life. So, yeah, use this practical alchemy. This very real magic. This numerical equation to the universe. All transcribed through the English language by your boy, Tahuti Hermes Trismegistus, aka Symmetry. Your trippy, Tripsy, Chase Clarence Calloway. Connect with your communication, build your own physical reality, transform inside of yourself. That is going to be the world that the universe supports. The universe itself is supporting the world that you're building internally. That's why people who want to teach you how to build their world are so adamant about making sure that you are as disconnected from yourself as possible. Because why would you build someone else's world when you can literally build your own? Especially with your own words. Much love. Mwah.